Welcome back and on to one of the big stories today. Now, Parliament says it is all systems go for the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly later today. The position became vacant following the recent appointment of former Speaker Thandi Modise to Cabinet. Former Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has been nominated by the ANC caucus amid strong criticism from opposition parties and others who say she's not fit for the position. The Economic Freedom Fighters has since indicated that it will not participate in the election process this morning, while a group called the New Nation Movement has threatened legal action against Mapisa-Nqakula's election, saying that she is not fit for the position because of corruption allegations against her. But before we cross to the parliamentary precinct where Abra Barbier is, let's first take a look at this timeline that details previous speakers of the National Assembly since the advent of democracy.
As the National Assembly elects a new speaker, we take a look back at the previous speakers since the advent of democracy. Freni Ginwala was the first post-apartheid speaker. Ginwala was the first woman to serve in this position in Parliament in the whole of Africa. She was very instrumental in setting a new course for government. Baleka Mbete followed the footsteps of Ginwala and served until she was elected Deputy President in 2008. This is after the resignation of former President Thabo Mbeki and Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. Gwen Mahlangu, who was her deputy at the time, had to fill in the big shoes, and she did it well given the short time she served and the mood of Parliament at the time. In the fourth Democratic Parliament, Max Sisulu was elected Speaker of the National Assembly. He was succeeded by Baleka Mbete, who made her way back to Parliament as Speaker for the second time. The second time proved to be rocky for Mbete, as she was faced with a lot of criticism. Mbete was succeeded by Thandi Modise in 2019, who, after successfully leading the smaller House of Parliament, the NCOP, made her way to the National Assembly. Modise served most of her term under the challenging conditions of COVID-19, and her term as Speaker was cut short by her appointment as a new Military Veterans and Defence Minister by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
And for more on this now, we cross to the parliamentary precinct where our reporter Abra Barbier is, just to give us a sense of what to expect later today. Abra, good morning from a slightly warmer Johannesburg, I would imagine, but a big day ahead for you.
Sakina, thank you. Yes, good morning to you as well. It is quite a big day, and there are so many layers to what is happening today other than just the election of the nomination and election of a new speaker to the National Assembly. Of course, we have to take into account what has been happening in the country and in the world over the past year. And today, in fact, would be the first time since lockdown that we would have all MPs on the premises. As you know, Parliament has also been operating virtually, doing a very good job of it, if I can just throw that in there. So many, while for some sittings you do have a percentage of MPs in the House, in the chamber, which is behind me, largely most MPs are still working from home and conducting their work on various virtual platforms. And this is, of course, the committees I'm referring to now. But today, for the first time, we will have all MPs because that is what is required, constitutionally required when it comes to the nomination and election of a Speaker of the National Assembly. So in terms of social distancing, Parliament has made sure that they are going to maintain these protocols, and the MPs will be split between two venues. The National Assembly itself, it's a very large chamber, so MPs will be split across, I think it's 2-3 levels. Some will be seated in the public gallery, some will actually be seated in their normal positions on the floor. So they will be split across the various levels in the National Assembly, and then the remaining MPs will be in room E249, which is one of the bigger committee rooms here on the precinct. So that's what is happening in terms of COVID protocol and just making sure everybody is safe. I can say on the few occasions that I have had to come into our newsroom here at Parliament, the security measures, the safety protocols have been Parliament has really gone out of its way to make sure everybody is safe. People who've had to come in to do their work, Parliament's really done a lot. So in terms of those safety protocols, I'm sure everything is in place. Of course, when it comes to the politics of the day, we are going to be unpacking that as the day goes by. I will be speaking to political parties, chief whips of political parties. Earlier on, you did mention that the EFF have said they will not be attending today. They've said this process is essentially a flawed process because they're saying that today will just be a rubber stamping of the president's wish to have the former Defence Minister now elected as the Speaker. And according to the EFF statement, they're going to be seeking legal advice on the matter. But we will be doing further analysis into that later on, and we will be speaking to the chief whips of parties. And then after that, after the entire process takes place, it will be the acting Chief Justice, Judge Hlophe, will be presiding over the proceedings today. Everything's being kept very tight. We are expecting the entire process to be about 4 hours. It starts at 11 o'clock, and then the voting process, the nomination process, that should take about 4 hours. Thereafter, we are going to be getting reactions from the various parties about just to find out from them what they thought of how the day proceeded and the outcome of the election. Sakina?
And just a quick one, Abra, with regard to the actual voting process, because usually members would have seats that are allocated to them from which they actually vote. How is that going to work, given that they will be seated across various spaces in the chamber today?
Okay, I left that bit out, yes. So obviously the two chambers will be connected virtually, and obviously it will also be open to the public. And while MPs will be split up across the two venues, when it comes to the actual voting, all MPs have to be in the National Assembly chamber. So what I've been told is that 4 voting booths have been set up, and MPs will then be directed to the 4 voting booths. It is a secret ballot, so it would be like a normal election in which we as citizens vote. They will be using 4 separate voting booths, and then thereafter they will move back to their specific venues and seats. And then obviously the ballots will be taken out and counting will take place. And while that is taking place, they will be in their social distanced positions. Sakina?
Well, Abra, thanks so much for that. So we get a sense of what is likely to happen today and how the process is going to unfold. But we'll check back in with you later on in the morning when I'm sure as people start arriving, Abra will have more guests to speak to as well.